Sparking Change with Gigi, a show that aims to make the world a better place by bringing together authentic minds. This show encourages each of us to be the change we wish to see in the world. Get ready to be inspired and join us on this journey to create a brighter future for all.
Welcome everyone to Spark and Change with Gigi. I'm your host, Giovanna Tartarone, and today we're diving into the fascinating world of home biomagnetism therapy with the incredible Bonnie Rogers, a holistic practitioner dedicated to restoring balance, harmony, and natural healing through the power of magnet energy. Join us as we explore the biomagnetism, how it can realign the body, boost vitality, and support your journey towards total well-being. Welcome, Bonnie. So nice to have you.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So, Bonnie, tell us, how did you get into this unique kind of energy work? Is there personal experience you had that opened the doors for you?
It's interesting because I've been an herbalist for 20 something years, could be close to 30. And I've done a bunch of work, and I was selling some products for somebody, and they wanted us to sell these magnets, and he sent me some stuff, and I had no clue what this was. And I was on a Zoom call one day with him and somebody else, and I said to him, I can't move my arm past here. Will those magnets help me? Because I like to sleep with my hand up here, and I would sleep for like an hour, and I'd wake up in agony, and I'd end up going downstairs to the recliner chair and sleeping on the recliner chair because there was no pressure on my shoulder at all. And after 4 months, my husband was not a happy camper,
to say the least.
And he said to me, "Yeah, Bonnie, take these magnets and put them over here for 15 minutes, and call me in a few days. Let me know how you do." And I put those magnets on right behind my neck for 15 minutes. I don't even know how I held them up, whether it was tape or a headband that I held, or I don't know. And I slept in my bed that night. And it kept going on. And I was like, oh my God, there's something to this. Because all I did was place some magnets on me, and I was able to move my arm again. It didn't make any sense to me. And I found out who he studied with, and it ended up it was this man, Luis Garcia, and he's a medical doctor, but all he does is biomagnetism. And he had a training center that was in Saddlebrook, New Jersey, which is like 45 minutes from my house. And there was a training session 6 weeks later, and I was able to get into it. And so it was like, my daughter lives right near there. I stayed there, and it was magic. It was really magic. And then for the next 3 months, I did a ton of free sessions for people because I just needed to practice. You can't become a doctor without doing an internship.
Right.
And I started doing all these things, and like all these issues were going away for people. And I was like, okay. And then I went and I did the advanced program. And then I started my practice and, integrated it with my herbal practice. And I just kept seeing more and more things happening that would just go away. And there was no rhyme or reason.
So for someone who's never heard of biomagnetism before, how would you describe it in very simplest terms?
So biomagnetism is taking pairs of magnets. So these are small ones, okay? So I'll take a pair of them, and I'm putting like this side, there's a black on one side, there's red on the other side, and I'm putting them on people's bodies. So for example, I could be putting them like this, okay? And this, when I'm doing it right here, I'm working on the nasal passages right underneath here, the sinuses. People that have clogged, sinuses up here, this really helps. I'm doing it with really bad nasal issues. I might be doing it here, here, and here. And I've seen people with RSV disappear. I've seen people I use them with flu protocols.
So is it balancing out the energy, because you're using red and black?
Well, you have to use a pair of magnets. This is called biomagnetic pair therapy or biomagnetism. And so these are larger ones. And so I'm not going to use them on my face because it's just too big. But I'm going to be using them on my back. I'm going to be using them in different parts of the body. They all work. There's different sizes. There's like mini, these are small ones, these are medium ones, and I have ones that are way larger.
So what's happening energetically when a person suddenly, feels?
And we're all magnetic. We all have electrical energy through our entire body. And so what happens is when you put one in here, it's pushing the energy to the other part of the pair. And so what you're doing is you're creating a neutral pH, basically. And pathogens don't live in a neutral pH. They need acidity or they need alkalinity. Yeah, but there's different pHs in different parts of the body.
Got it.
Like when you're doing, a stick, in your urine, it's going to be different than the pH that's on your face.
Okay.
It's all about balance. So it's really about balancing the energy in the body.
And so it automatically does it to the magnets, I guess.
And I do it for people. I do it in person, but I also do a lot of work that's remote. And I, somebody told me you can do this remote, and I thought, oh yeah, right. But I mean, just like you can use Reiki and you do Reiki, doesn't matter if you're in Timbuktu or you're here.
Correct.
So we're using magnetic energy to move things.
And it's the intention as well behind it.
All
right?
intention. It's all intention.
Yes.
So I remember saying to myself, does this really work? And a friend of mine lives in North Carolina, and she had really bad allergies one year. And I said to her, want me to try and work on you and see if I can help you? She's like, yeah, you got my permission. And so I started doing this whole protocol. And I said to her, just keep a tissue box near you because you're probably going to need it today, but call me later. And she calls me later and she says, oh my God, I went through the whole tissue box today. I feel great. Her allergies never came back that year.
Yeah. No, I do the same type of work with the emotion code. And yes, we don't need to be there. They don't need to be near us. It's all energy and you're shifting energy.
And I work with emotions. I work with all kinds of things.
I just love this work, right? Because really you can help anybody from all over the world.
Because the emotions cause the physical. And so if you have somebody who's really stressed, you got to start to reduce some of that stress level, whether it's by giving them some herbs, whether it's by using magnets, whether it's by using some emotion code with it. I have friends that use emotion code at the same time as they do biomagnetism. I do a different type of emotion thing. I just use magnets for it.
Yeah. No, and it's at the end, it's shifting the energy, right? So that we can balance ourselves holistically. And that's kind of when we talk about, holistic wellness, we're talking about using your own innate healing capabilities with your own energy, because that's where it starts. It doesn't end there, but that's where it has to begin in order for us to receive whatever else we need.
It's really important. And, I do a Zoom call for biomagnetism practitioners from all over the world.
Yes.
And I was on a call last night, and one of my friends, we were asking about this guy that she's been dealing with liver issues.
Yes.
And she said, oh, I got to tell you what happened. I said, well, what happened? She said, they were saying he has liver failure and he's got at number 10 or whatever they were measuring. And they were not really happy and they want to start all kinds of protocols. And he came for 2 sessions. And yesterday he had gone to the doctor before he came to her. And the number was 3. They still want to do work because that's what the medical profession does. They still want to do whatever they're going to do. But he said, I went out this weekend and I had so much energy and I can't believe it. All you did was place magnets on me. Yeah. And this is what I see. I mean, I had this pastor lives in South Carolina, and a friend of mine called me and she says to me, can you help him? Because he's got to travel and he's got gout and he doesn't know what to do. And I said, well, get his permission because I have to go into his energy field to find out what's going on. And it was 10:30 at night and I was watching some stupid TV. And I did like 10 minutes of work on him. And then the next morning I did a full session. And he called her about 4 o'clock that day and said, I don't know what your friend just did to me, but I feel amazing. I have no more pain. I never had to do a second session on him.
Right.
and which is good and bad. You want to get a client, you want to have them, come to you all the time. But I don't need to a lot of times. I mean, I haven't.
But they'll come automatically because the next time they feel pain,
Right.
it's like, "Hi, Bonnie, can you help me again?"
Right. I mean, I just got a text this morning with a woman who actually brought her mother here, who was elderly and couldn't really walk and didn't speak English, and it was a really difficult. And I'm trying to work on her, and she's stretching her foot out, and I can't test her. I'm using kinesiology. When they're in person, I'm using their feet and I'm tapping their feet together. I couldn't do it, and I finally said to her, "You're gonna think I'm crazy. I need you to go home. I'm gonna work on your mom. I have a mannequin that I use as a surrogate, and I'm gonna work on her remotely." And she said to me, "Okay." So I helped her get her outside. I did the work on her. The woman had so much less pain that night. In fact, I just got a call from her today. This will be her third or fourth session I'm doing on her. And I said, "How is she doing?" She says she's doing really good. They still want to do surgery, but I don't know. I don't think they need it. So I said to her, "I'll do it Monday," because I was busy. And so, I mean, I think that's really important that.
You mentioned before about our energy field, right? Let's talk about that. Like, help others to understand, what does that really mean, and how does that impact the body's wellness?
Our energy field.
Yes.
Well, I can't see auras, but maybe some other people do. People can see your energy. I mean, I can see if I really try. I can see fields of energy. Sometimes they're high, sometimes they're low. But it's not just the energy that's around our body; it's the energy that's in our body.
Mm-hmm.
When we think about energy, it's like, well, how much get up and go do you have? Do you feel like sitting in bed all day long, and do you feel like you can just go and run? That's not all of that. That's not the only thing of energy. Your eyes have energy. Your stomach has energy. When it's working, if it has food in it, it has all the acids in it. It has to break everything down. This is all energy in our body, and we want to keep it balanced. So that
It's just like oxygen. We can't see it, but it's there.
Yes.
And it's always working, always moving, right? And when it becomes stagnant and it doesn't move, that's where we can create inflammation, illnesses. So always keeping, a balance, where you're not sitting for a long time. That's where, I have a friend who does these shows. She does them standing up and starts moving around because she says, like, I can't stand sitting for an hour almost. And I agree, because sometimes you feel the pain from just not moving your legs, especially working from home now that people are working remotely. It's like it does affect your physical body if you're constantly, on one side or not moving.
You have to get your lymphatic system working. I mean, one of the things that I like to teach my clients is I call it a bouncing kind of thing. It's almost like if you're standing upright in a Tai Chi position. So you're not bending your knees, but you're not straightening them really all the way.
Mm-hmm.
And you're literally just almost like pushing your knees forward.
Yeah.
And if you bounce like that for 30 seconds, you'll feel the fingertips are tingling.
Yes.
If you can do that for 30 seconds, it's almost like running for 10 minutes. It's almost like getting on a rebounder.
Yes.
If you get on a rebounder for 1 minute, it's like almost like running a half an hour, because that's how much power it is about moving the lymphatic system.
Yes, absolutely. I actually do yoga, and we do Tai Chi and all that. And you can feel the energy in our body for sure. So there's people who may be hesitant in even, understanding how energy impacts our physical body, from the energetic body to the physical body. Can you give us some client stories that, you've helped them to understand how the flow, how it all works together?
Well, I think it's important when you realize that someone who has, for example, my daughter called me one day, and she was going to pick up my granddaughter at school because the nurse called and said she has pink eye. And I said, "Okay, you want me to help you? You want me to help her?" She says, sure, I don't know what you can do. You live 45 minutes away. And so I did what I do is, and I looked everything up and I figured out what pairs I needed to do. And it wasn't a lot. Maybe it was 3 or 4 pairs. And I placed them on my mannequin. And she gets my granddaughter home and she goes to take a nap. And she falls asleep for 3 or 4 hours. And she wakes up and she's better. My daughter said to me, "What did you do?" I said, "Don't complain. She's not." I said, "You're going to have to keep her home from school tomorrow because you took her home from school today and they're not going to let her come back in. So just keep her home and let her just relax while you work." And she's great. I mean, she was great. 2 days later, she went back to school. And
it's just amazing how if you keep curiosity open, right? If you just say, you know what, let's just try it. What we got to lose?
You don't know. It's like, and my other daughter called me one day and she said, "Mom, somebody has strep throat or something like that in my other granddaughter's daycare center." She said, "I don't want her to get sick. Anything you can do to help her?" So I'm doing a session on her, and I decided to set my intention that everybody in that classroom was going to get the same energy. Nobody else got sick. I was like, I don't know if they wouldn't have gotten sick or if I did something, but I'll take it.
Yes. Like you said, set the intention. I mean, we know everything is energy. Albert Einstein said everything is energy. So when we can really view it from that perspective, and energy is always here, never created or destroyed. It's here. So we're manipulating energy, basically, in a sense, in every day in our lives where we're manipulating energy into form, right?
Absolutely. It's about relying on almost like relying on faith that something can change you versus taking a pharmaceutical.
Yeah.
Because, and I'm not going to say that people don't need to take pharma. Some people need to take certain things, but they don't need to take what they need, what they're being given, because half the time the things that they're being given are clashing with each other and making you worse.
Correct. I mean, a lot of people take, I think the average statistics show at least 7 medicine a day, so there is no way that, any individual doctor can learn all the interactions of those 7 medicines
and they
together.
Go to different pharmacies and they don't even know which one is doing what.
Yeah.
And so it's very dangerous. And so, my intention is to help people using the magnets as much as I can. Whether it's with pain, somebody hurts themselves, they've got pain, or trauma. We do a lot of trauma work.
So, and again, that's shifting the emotions and from that trauma, right? Because that's a big one.
It could also be banging your toe.
Sure.
Whether it's breaking it or just having a bruise, that was a trauma. And so a lot of times I'm starting with a black magnet and then adding the red magnet to it. But when I'm working with traumas, I'm reversing it. So I'm pushing the energy versus pulling it.
Okay.
And so and then when I'm doing trauma, my matching pairs are always pairs that are things like bladder, kidneys, drainage, all about draining all the stuff coming out of your body.
It's almost like detoxing, right? So let's talk about that.
I'll tell people all the time, when they finish a session, make sure you drink a lot of water today, and you're gonna pee out all that crap that we just pulled.
Right. So you're in essence are detoxing. I'll go back to that because they feel the energy releasing, the emotional energy releasing.
Yeah, it's not always a detox. It's more of just a movement of things in our bodies, whether it's a bacteria, whether it's a parasite, a mold.
And magnets can pick that up and sense it and move it around. Let's talk about that. Like, so what are they doing?
When I'm testing for things, I'm going through and I'm testing whether I'm doing remote and I'm using my pendulum, or if I'm working on a person, I'm testing for things. I'm testing for a lot of the common pathogens, whether they be things that people think nobody gets, like TB or malaria. And I find a lot of people have those things. And they're creating other kind of stuff. But they don't, if they did a blood test, they wouldn't necessarily find it. Because it's like they tell you that Lyme hides. a little tiny molecule from those things may be there, and they're messing with everything else in the body. Things aren't running smoothly. And so if you can start to clear those,
so that's where you start. That's like your base when somebody comes to you. And
I'm testing a whole list of common pathogens, and then I'm testing viruses. I'm testing if they have any viruses, bacteria, mold, parasites. We're working a lot with Lyme disease, because Lyme disease, would start with Borrelia, but it's got a lot of other pathogens that are attached to it. And you have to clear all those to get rid of all of the symptoms. So Lyme is not a one-time thing.
Right.
It's, you're just chipping away at all those things. But people seem to feel like they have more energy. They can do more things. They're not stuck. So a lot of times with people with Lyme, they're like crippled. They can't do anything. They can't.
Yeah, I remember I have friends like that. Yeah, it can get really bad.
And there are, people that have kidney disease. I was working on my friend's son the other day because he was in the hospital with kidney dysfunction.
Yeah.
And, it's, you don't know what's going to happen. It's not like I work on digestive disorders. That's all. Because it doesn't really matter when you're working with this. You're working with a pathogen. So it's different than like medical profession that has a specialist for everything. And there are people that are biomag, people that they only do work on Lyme, or they only do work on emotions. I don't want to do that. I didn't do that with my herbal practice.
Okay, let's talk about that. How does the magnet work complement the herbal practice that you do?
Well, if somebody comes to me and they want to work with herbs, I'll work with herbs. If they want to do both, I work with both. And so when I'm testing them, I'll do the magnets, and then let's just say they have the flu. I'll test, should I be using yarrow? Should I use elderberry? What should I do? And if I get a yes, then I figure out what kind of combination and what kind of form. Is the form in a syrup? Is it in a tincture? Is it in a tea? What is it? And I have all those things here. You can see behind me, I have shelves and shelves of stuff and closets. And
so there's certain herbs that, in addition to the magnet work that you do, that you can provide, that you have prescribe, I guess.
I had somebody come into me yesterday with hemorrhoids, and I sent him home with some herbs to use also, but I did the magnet work on him, and I haven't heard anything back. So it's too soon to know right now.
Right.
He says, "Do I need to come back for another session?" I said, "I don't know. Call me in a few weeks. Let's see where you're at."
So what are some of the, winter's coming, right? Today there was snow out there, but.
Oh my God, I couldn't believe it was snowing. I got out of the house and there was nothing on my car window. And as I got to the street, I see snow. I'm like, really?
Yeah, it was on the road. It was beautiful. What would you recommend that people should have on hand, now that flu season is coming around?
Well, echinacea tincture, but you have to be really careful. So you have to make sure you're getting good echinacea tincture, but you can't just take, like when you talk about tinctures, you take them with a dropper. Like, it might say take 1 ml 3 times a day or something like that. If you take 1 milliliter of echinacea, you might as well throw it away. It's not going to work. If you're getting a cold or a flu, you take a teaspoon 3 times a day for the first.
Before you're getting it, or after you got it, or
if you feel like you're getting it, or after you got it. Sometimes you don't know you're getting it until the next day you're waking up and you don't feel well and you're sneezing. And you don't take a small amount, and you don't ever take echinacea in the pill form, because you might as well throw your money away. It doesn't work.
Why doesn't it work? Because
you have to extract the medicine out of the plants. And when you extract the medicine out of the plant, you need to use alcohol. And I wouldn't use glycerites either in terms of echinacea. Some people will use them with children, but there's so little alcohol that you're using. With a child, you might be using a milliliter of echinacea, for example. There's more alcohol in a banana.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
See, we won't know that. unless we heard it from the specialist, from people
Yeah,
who
and
do.
so I think it's important that I got like my grandkids. They all know that they have to have their elderberry syrup pretty much every day in the morning. And elderberry syrup is just made with elderberries, cinnamon, ginger.
And what's the benefit of that?
It helps build the immune system.
And that's how we prevent
Keep
colds,
your immune
right?
system strong. Yeah. So you don't get those things.
So people come to see you for both, like herbal
Yeah,
and
not as much herbs as much as Biomag now. I found over the last decade that more and more people wanted to use their insurance, go to the doctor, pay their copay, take a pill for their ill, and that's what they wanted to do. And that's their choice. It's not my choice.
right.
If that's what they want to do, then so that's why, when I started getting into biomagnetism, I found that was different. The people that were coming to me had more of an open mind. They weren't just stuck on having to go to the doctor.
Yeah, and you know what, when you say that too, what comes to mind is, for us to really heal, we have to consider the trilogy, right? Body, mind, and spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where science and spirituality come together, because in a perfect world, we're addressing the social, emotional, the mental, and the physical, and the spiritual as well, to help the healing process. So Joe Dispenza is really, I love him because his work, he's showing the results of what happens when we are including the energy, the spiritual part of healing the body, and through energy work. And he says, his goal and his vision, and so is mine with World Energy Healers, is to marry them together, what we have now, and combine not just the physical, but not just heal the physical body, but we have to heal the energetic body, because we do have an energetic body, which, again, when I got into this work, I was like, what is it? Chakras? What are they?
What are they? Yes.
I went down this rabbit hole
I was working on clearing chakras on someone yesterday.
So let's talk about that. Why is that important? So let's talk about the chakras, like for people who don't know what they are, because I did not know until I got into this energy work.
Chakras are energy centers. And so I think there's 7 chakras, from the root chakra, which is all the way at the bottom, just grounding you, to your crown chakra, which is up here and opening you up to the universe. Then there's your third eye, there's your throat chakra, which is all about communication. There's your heart chakra, your solar plexus, which is where the energy comes into your body. And so when I'm working on balancing them, I'm using magnets on the front of the body, so like here, and I'm using one that's right behind my neck here. So if I'm working on the throat chakra, and if I'm working here, I might be using here. And when I'm working on the crown chakra here, I'm going to take the crown chakra and I'm going to do it to the root chakra. So I'm trying to balance top to bottom.
Top to bottom. And why is it important to balance your chakras?
Because those are the energy centers in your body that help your body communicate with the rest of the world, or into your body.
Okay.
Grounding yourself, opening you up to the universe, your communication, your heart, your stomach, your solar plexus is you getting the energy in.
So that things can function correctly, right?
Yes.
So your organs can all work together as a community, because my understanding is we have a community inside our body.
We do, and we're not a liver, and we're not a heart. We're a total body, and we need to make sure that everything has communication between each part.
And that's why it's so important to recognize that it's not just the physical aspect of healing. True healing happens when we integrate and use all 3 aspects, right? And
Right.
so, as you know, I'm a cancer survivor, and the emotional roller coaster ride that I had to go through um, could not be addressed just on a physical level.
No, it can't. It can't be.
Right.
And so when you're trying to work with, with a person, you need to look at the whole body, not just a piece of it.
I want to just step aside a little bit. When I was a teacher, we used to say we have to teach the whole child. You cannot just teach the intellectual part of the
No.
child and forget about his emotions and forget about, the state of being, right? Because he can't learn if he's not feeling well. He can't learn if there's an emotional trauma
Right.
happening in his life.
And you don't know what's happening at home. You don't know what's
And
happening at home if he's
right,
got parents that are going to help him, if he has parents that are going to do it all for them by themselves, if he has parents
right,
that are going to berate him for everything he does.
right.
And you don't know what that is. You need to meet them where they are.
And it's no different with us as adults when we go to get health care.
Mm-hmm.
We need to address the whole person.
It's
And
like
that's what's missing.
go to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor says, "Well, your liver has nothing to do with it."
That's
Yeah.
wrong, right?
I
Because
don't care what medications you were on, because it doesn't really matter. Well, don't you know that maybe that medication you're taking for your liver is affecting your eyes, and maybe that has to get addressed? But they don't do that. So as a holistic practitioner, you're trying
yes,
to encompass the entire body so that you can balance the body.
that's what and I mean, that's my mission, is really help people to see it from a different perspective.
And
That
I'm looking for the story. So like when I send out a questionnaire, it doesn't really, I don't know if you took a look at the one I sent you.
it was pretty long.
It doesn't take that long to do. There's a lot of ones that are just like one word answers.
Yeah.
But the first thing I say is I want to know what your story is from start to beginning.
Yeah.
So your story would encompass, how you felt as a child, how what happened, when you got the cancer, what happened, what's going on with your body. Did that cancer create a limp in you? Did it create a stomach issue? What happened? And are they all feeling good now? And how can we help to rebalance the whole body?
Right. Yeah, it's absolutely addressing that aspect of the body in order to heal. I've learned, and through study, I mean, once we go down this energy work, there's a whole new world
Mhm.
for us to discover, like what the body is really capable of doing, and how we can embrace this new, I don't even want to say new way, but accepting that there's another way, right? Because I hate to hear like, well, according, and I'll share the story. It was this lady who went to one doctor, and she got diagnosed with breast cancer, and it was like, okay, doctor, what do you think the results are going to be here? Well, according to research, books, statistics, and we've shown that maybe you have 5 years to live. And then she goes to another doctor and gets another opinion, and she asks the same question. And that doctor said, well, according to my watch, you ain't going anywhere. Like, we got work to do. Right. So it was almost like one gave hope and one kind of like already,
But
put
5 years
it underground.
wasn't even hope. It's like, okay, and maybe you go to somebody else who said, okay, if we do XYZ and you meditate and you do this and you take Epsom salt baths and you get some energy work done to you, and we do minimal amount of medication and we change your diet. We remove all sugar from your diet. We depending on what your issue is. I mean, sugar is not good for anybody.
Right.
And let me tell you, it's the hardest thing in the world to do. But I did this 3 months ago, and I feel great.
No, sugar is a killer. It sure is.
It
I learned
is.
that the hard way too.
And you don't know where it's in. People say, well, I just had a sandwich. Well, do you know how much sugar's in that piece of bread that you just ate? Well, what it turns to when you get into your body, because it turns all of those grains turn into glucose, which is sugar in your body. And so it's not to say to people that you have to go totally grain-free, sugar-free, anything. But let's come up with something that's going to work for you. And most nutritionists don't do that.
Right. So you also provide some guidance in nutrition and what they can eat, given their condition.
I do. And I test with their body to see what they can do. Then there are people who are willing to make a change, and there are people who are not willing to make a change.
And that's the key, right? It's like making a decision to change because I mean, at the end of the day, we're the ones who really have control over our bodies. Mm-hmm. It's our decision. It's a choice that you make, like you say. And sometimes, and I was one of those people that, I waited till the bad news came in order to change my life. And it doesn't have to be that way.
It doesn't have to be that way. And it doesn't have to be, I had something happen to me 3 months ago, and I sat on the couch one day and I said, okay, what are you going to do? Yeah. And I said, pretend that you're your client and that you're not yourself.
Right.
And I just sat there and I said, okay, for right now, you're going to give up all sugar, all carbs, and caffeine. And I did. And I had I thought my head was going to blow up the entire week.
I remember those days too.
But if you had come to me, I would have said you're detoxing. But my brain wouldn't allow me to go there. And when I finished with this crazy detox, I thought, okay, that was a detox. I feel amazing.
Yeah.
And the other day I had something and I thought, why are you eating this? And I threw it out.
And you know what? You got to truly fight against
even as a practitioner.
Yes.
You have to, sit back and say, okay, this is what I need to do for me.
Intentionally do things for yourself.
Right.
And when you intentionally give it so much focus, and that's what happens is like, okay, I had to focus on myself after I got sick.
Yeah.
That now the change was imperative. Like I needed to do it regardless of, I used to have, and I still do, but I have it with no sugar now because I built a new habit. But I love my espresso, my little cup of espresso every morning. But I used to have more sugar than espresso. People used to like, what are you doing? If I would go to a restaurant, I would put like 4 bags of sugar in my espresso because it's very tart. It's very, what do you call it?
Bitter.
Bitter. So then when I went through this experience with cancer, I'm like, okay, there goes the sugar. So now I started drinking a little bit, just a little bit, like a sip without sugar, and then another sip. And then next thing you know, I'm not having any sugar in my coffee.
When I started drinking coffee, my mom was on Weight Watchers. And so I would start taking sips of hers and never had sugar in it. So I couldn't stand coffee with sugar in it. But put a really good brownie next to it, and I could eat the brownie with the coffee without the sugar. And I don't need any of them.
But, we go back to like intentionally looking at the food. It's like my daughter made brownies last night, right? And I went to bed. I smelled it, but I didn't even touch it. This morning, I go make myself eggs, and there it is, the container. And I literally cut like a little piece just to put it in my mouth, but that was it. Like I never had the whole piece.
Did you allow your body to just have that taste?
I know. And, but even that is not good.
Keep straightening the brownie until they end up finishing the entire container.
Oh my goodness. It's amazing. But so it's discipline, right? It's discipline. It's making a commitment to yourself. It's being very disciplined to, keep up with your body. Your body needs that undivided attention, and we don't give it. I mean, that we lack so much of that because we're in a hurry. We're working, lots of hours. We're on the go.
And we're stressed out. And so when I put somebody on the table,
yes,
the biggest thing I get when they get off the table and I say, how do you feel? I'm relaxed.
Right.
Because the magnets well, like my people who are energy healers, they feel the magnetic energy going through them. They're like, oh my God, Bonnie, I'm feeling stuff. I'm going, yeah, that's the magnets that are moving through your body. My husband, he didn't feel a thing, but he gets the results. So it's how open are you to the energy fields?
Correct.
Some people are, some people aren't, but it doesn't really matter because the
So
magnets do what they have to do.
right. And I think, when people see the results, that's when they start to change their mind. And, I know there's people out there doing energy work that are more than open to, hey, try it. Let's do a 15-minute session. See if you feel something.
Right. Yeah, couple of years ago, I ended up having a clot behind my right eye.
A what?
A clot right behind my right eye. And I come downstairs to work on the computer, and the whole thing looked white. I'm like, uh-oh, what's going on with my eye? And I ended up going into a retinal specialist, and it was crazy, but I ended up contacting my magnet teacher. And he said to me, get in here as soon as you can, and I want you to do these certain magnets. I actually sent my husband home from the hospital to get my magnets to bring him back to me at the hospital and get me some food because I wasn't going to eat the crap that was in that hospital. And I mostly use magnets. I used some DMSO. They couldn't believe that, everything was pretty much gone.
Yeah.
And
I think because you're open to it. You're open to it, right? And then again, this is using our own body to heal. So it's something different that people are not used to, but it's also bringing in like ancient wisdom, right? Because think about it. There wasn't pharma available 2,000 years ago. So how did people heal back then?
Well, they used plants. So did you ever wonder why people in China and people in New Mexico and people in anywhere, they use the herbs for the same things that they needed to be? And well, why would that be? And I remember one of my first herb teachers said to me, I want you to go outside and sit next to a plant that you don't know and do a meditation and see what that plant tells you. And I thought, oh my God, he's crazy.
Yeah.
And I sat next to, I don't even remember what plant it was. And I got all this information, and I went and I looked it up afterwards. And it told me exactly what it did. And so that's how people in all different parts of the world are using the same plants for the same things.
I think a lot of it is coming back, if you ask me, from people growing their own gardens to using herbs to help heal.
It's really
and things like that.
It's really important. It's I have tons of herbs. We have a big organic garden in our yard, my front yard, because there's not enough sunlight in my backyard, and it's magic just putting your hands into the dirt and doing that. And
you spoke about grounding. Do you do that daily? Because I know I try. I go out in the sun, and I know grounding is so good.
All summer long I'm outside in my bare feet in the garden.
Yes.
So I'm grounding, not thinking about it, but just doing it. Not in the winter time because it's too cold up there.
So do you see biomagnetism fitting into the future of holistic medicine?
Absolutely. Yeah. It was started, I don't know, in the 1980s by a doctor in Mexico who wasn't getting the results he wanted. He started playing with magnets and seeing the shortening of a leg when only half of the pair was on it. And I see this all the time when I'm putting on what I call personal pairs, which is I'm not sure there's no standard pair that I need for this person. And I'll ask and I'll say, what's my black magnet? And I find my black magnet and I'll put it on the person. And if there's someone else there that's with them, I'll go watch their legs. And their legs will be like, let's just say they're even here. One will go like this. And then if I put the matching pair on, that's the correct one, they go back. They just do this. And you look at the feet and you go, oh my God, how did that happen? And it happens all the time because it's our muscles. It's muscle. People talk about muscle testing.
Yes.
our muscles shorten, and then when you get the balance, they balance out. And so that's what we're looking for, is we're looking to rebalance the body. And for some people, I don't need to put personal pairs on, and some people I do.
Right.
Um,
So yeah, the subconscious, which kind of like dictates what's going on in the body, speaks through muscle testing.
mhm.
So it's fascinating. It's fascinating how
And some people use their fingers for muscle testing. Some people, I use a pendulum. I use
yeah, we go like this, right?
Well, I don't do that when I do this. I can't move my middle finger unless my other fingers are out, but I'm only
Okay.
using the two. And so if I say, show me my yeses, this finger goes up, and I'll go, show me my no. And if I ask a question, oh, let's see, is Giovanna in California? And I do that when I'm in the car. Like if I'm testing things in the car, I can do that easily. I remember that time I told you I had to go to the hospital. He wanted me to go on some medication. I wasn't going on. And I'm sitting there with my hand down and I'm testing it. And my husband's just across the room and he's laughing, hysterical. And I knew why he was laughing because he saw me testing.
Yes.
And I remember texting my teacher, Dr. Garcia, and he says, do not take that. I'm like, thank God my testing is right,
Yeah.
And it's important that, you start to understand where you are, in the whole realm of things.
And your body does talk to you.
Yes.
If we're listening, this is something I had to learn too. Like my body talks to me. Yeah, your body does talk to you through different ways. And, part of meditation, part of prayer, whatever you want to call it, is getting still to listen to your body. And that's so important with the work that you do. When they're on your table, they have no choice but to listen to their body, right?
I had a gentleman who I met him when I was doing this training. He was doing the training also. But he was a young guy. He was at that point he was probably 22 years old, and he was still in college, and he was doing the training also. And he called me up one day and he says to me, can I come get a session? I need a session today. I'm like, okay, come. He comes in and he says to me, you're going to think I'm crazy, Bonnie. I'm like, well, what's up? He says, my testicles hurt. I'm like, okay. And he's 22, I'm like, did you have too much sex or too little sex? He goes, no, it has nothing to do with that. Okay. I get on the table, gets on the table, and I start working on him. And I said to him, I got your answer. He says, what do you mean I got your answer? I said, you were in some kind of store and you walked by a kid that just had his MMR shot, which is measles, mumps, and rubella. And you got shed the mumps on you, which affects the testicles. I said, I'm going to place the mumps pairs on you and let's see what happens. And within 45 minutes when he got off my table, he had no pain. They never came back. So I guess and he probably wouldn't have even gotten that connection because at 22 years old, you don't know what that is.
Right.
And so it's a lot of things is shedding, is shedding. And, people, when they were getting the COVID vaccines, a lot of women, when they were in menopause, were starting to bleed again. And so there was a lot of shedding of energy moving from person to person, whether you believe it or not, kind of thing.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is to find actually what's happening and place the pairs to remove that pathogen from your body.
Correct. And again, you don't know unless you get checked and you figure it out. I see people all the time going, I went to the doctor for years and I could not get rid of this.
Mm-hmm.
And then I did some energy work and it's gone.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you explain that? This is not just a fluke, right? It's helping us to see that our body has the capability of healing if you open yourself up to other things.
You don't know. I had a woman who called me, who found me from Jacksonville. And she's like, can you help me? I have gallstones. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe. I said, give me permission. It'll probably take a few sessions. And I did a couple of remote sessions with her. And maybe, I don't know, a month or two later, she calls me up and she says, "Can you FaceTime?" I'm like, "Yeah." She says, "I have to tell you, I went to the doctor yesterday and they did an ultrasound. And when I first went in there, I had 3 gallstones. One was tiny and 2 were big. And I just got an ultrasound, and the tiny one is still there, but the 2 big ones disappeared, and they don't know how it happened. And they go, well, what should I tell them?" I go, "I don't know. Just tell them it's magic." What am I supposed to and I said, "We did the work. We did the energy work, and they went away." And, it's really hard to explain how it works.
Does somebody have to believe in biometric before they actually do it? No, right?
No, because you can believe in it after it works.
Yeah.
How
do you respond to the skeptics who say, this could just be like a placebo effect?
Don't do it.
Yeah.
I remember I had, when I was doing all those freebie ones at the beginning when I was first starting out, I had a woman that had all this eczema on her hands, and she called me up the next day and she said to me, "The eczema is gone. How'd you do that?" And I had a woman who I found shingles on, and I said, "Did you ever have shingles?" And she said to me, "I had shingles a few years ago, and every morning I have this like nerve pain on my cheek." And she said, "I haven't had it." And I actually saw her the other day, but she was at your show. And she says, "No, I haven't had it since then." Yeah.
So if there was one thing that you wished everybody learned about this work, what would it be?
Try it. Try it. I mean, I do it. There are people, you can find people, if you want to go in person, if you don't live in the area. I'm in Briarcliff in Westchester County. There are people, Dr. Garcia, his website has a list of practitioners, and there were other practitioners from different teachers. Like I say, I do this practitioner Zoom every week, and there are people from Australia, and there's a guy in Nigeria who comes on, and there are people all over, but the Europeans don't show up because we do it at 8:00 at night here. It's the middle of the night there.
Yes.
And but it's so funny because I'm doing it at 8:00 at night here, and it's 11:00 in the morning in Australia.
Right.
It's crazy.
But it works. It works no matter where you go. It works. Right?
They're coming from the future.
That's right. I think it's, I myself think that energy work is definitely the future of medicine, and because it's an holistic practice, right? We're not really.
It is, and we're moving energy. So we're using as our medium. We're using magnets.
Yes.
Some people are using other types of things.
Correct.
And so I mean, these come with me everywhere.
I was just going to say, do you carry them with you? You just answered my question.
I don't carry them all over. I have my teacher and a couple of people I know that are guys. They always have them in their back pocket, so they can always just put them, do things. Yeah. When I travel, I always take them, even if I'm only taking a small amount for myself.
Right.
But when I travel, if I'm driving, like I would go to Florida, I take all my stuff, and I don't take a mannequin with me, but I have this big wall hanging that has bodies on it, and I use them on it's like the size of a queen size bed.
Yes.
And I place my magnets on them as if it's my surrogate, and it works.
It works. Again, it's the intention behind it, right?
It's the intention behind it. I have somebody who's got some really bad lung issues, and she gets immunoglobulins putting into her every couple of weeks. So she's infecting herself every single couple of weeks because she's getting somebody else's blood put into her. And I have to work on her all the time. But then she feels better. So
right.
Well,
thank you so much. We're going to take it down for a landing. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you,
they can go to bonniesherbals.com, and it's like /magnets if they want to see the magnet stuff or the other stuff that I do. You can call me at 914-522-4221.
Beautiful.
And it's on my website also. You can email me, bonnie@bonniesherbals.com. And just go on the website and you'll find the information, and you can, give me a call or email me and ask questions.
Be open, be curious, try it.
I'm happy to answer, even if it's just questions, whether you need a session or not. I'm happy to answer the questions.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and thank everyone for joining us today. I'm your host, Giovanna Tarderone. Until next time, this is Sparking Change with Gigi. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Bonnie.
Bye.
Thank you for joining me on Sparking Change with Gigi. I hope that our episode today has ignited a spark within you to create positive change in your own life and in the world around you. To learn more about how you can become a guest or supporter, head over to sparkingchange.now.com. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider subscribing, sharing, and leaving a review. Your feedback is incredibly valuable to me, and it helps me to continue producing content that sparks change in each of us and the world. You can find us on various platforms, including Google Play Store, Apple App Store, YouTube, Facebook, Roku, Android TV, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. Thank you again for watching, and I look forward to having you join me again next week on Sparking Change with Gigi.